Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our final Strive for 5 training. And I thought we would start and talk about achievement because at the last class, we have achieved hopefully great results by you incorporating the core skills into your agency. So with that said, I wanted to talk to the slide, and that is this small group of trees that thrives at the pinnacle of a barren mountain, having basically achieved the unthinkable. And when I look back at my past experiences, I remember the Travel Weekly Power List coming out for that year, and we had moved from spot number 47 to spot number 40. And in that same year, one of my staff members made the A list for Travel and Leisure. And the overwhelming pride that I felt when my team had achieved these accomplishments motivates me every day because I want our customers to feel the same way that we felt on those days. So today I ask you to reflect on the past 5 weeks and celebrate your accomplishments, especially if you have taken each class and spent some time incorporating this into your agency and also into your agent's workflow. Today, we're going to bring all of the sessions together, and we're going to talk about full circle marketing and creating customers for life. And there are 2 questions that I want you to reflect on as we're going through the training. And the first one is what separates the extraordinary travel professional from the ordinary one? And the next is, why are some travel professionals always drawn into their client's inner circle, while others are employed on a one-time shot basis? So think about those questions now or even after class as well. But based on feedback from our ClientBase Power users and our ClientBase Board of Directors, we have developed this Clients for Life program, which sets forth a comprehensive framework for travel professionals to develop, and I'm going to call it breakthrough relationships, loyal clients, and brings them back time and time again. So today, Tom is going to talk through several core skills within ClientBase to create a Customer for Life program at your agency. You're going to see some of the core skills that we've talked about in the last 4 weeks repeated today because we really feel that we need to drive home the importance of marketing codes and the importance of full circle marketing. You have a very powerful marketing program at Ensemble. You have a direct mail program and you have an email marketing program. And those are 2 key programs that you need to have full circle marketing and customers for life. So with that said, I'm going to turn this over to Tom so that we can get started showing you again those core skills. So Tom, take it away.
Okay, well, thank you, Julie. And just again, I mentioned it a moment ago, but for those who joined in, a lot of today we're going to be talking a little bit more about similar things to what we've talked about in the past, but I want to show you how ClientBase works on an ongoing basis. Your database is far from static. It's going to change. The information you have on your clients is going to change, just like your clients change. So let me start by sharing my screen with everybody. So in a moment, you should all see my screen. Okay. So, in the full circle, because in the end, ClientBase is designed to track your relationship with your client. It's a CRM. It's right in the description, client relationship or relationship management. And again, the full circle, the whole relationship. We've talked about it in the past during our classes on res cards, for example. In sales, it's just a fact. Not every lead is going to result in a sale, but every lead can result in a relationship with a client. Just because they weren't ready to book that first trip, if you're able to capture some information about them, you can start building your relationship and become your client's go-to person. So when they are ready to book, you're the first person they come to. It's, they don't think of anybody else but to go to you for help planning that trip. And the key to that is to get information into ClientBase as early as possible. As soon as you find out you have a prospect, somebody who's thinking about going on a trip or considering a trip, get them into ClientBase. But that's just the start, because you can start with the minimum information you have. Sometimes you might just have a name and an email address and hopefully a phone number. Remember, you want to try to at least capture what state they live in too, because eMatrix needs that before they can start marketing. But get that information gathered so you can start building a relationship. We've talked about marketing codes, and marketing codes are probably the most important aspect to keeping in touch, keeping your name in front of the clients, making sure you're doing your part to customize that relationship, to personalize what you do. It's not possible to frankly remember all of your clients. It frankly isn't possible to go through and think of everybody off the top of your head who might be interested. But it is possible to learn that information with each contact and keep the codes up to date. And every contact is a chance to do that. We talked about at the beginning of the series, even with a bare minimum lead, even at that situation where you might not know more than a name and an email address and what state they live in, you're going to know a little bit about what their preferences are, because chances are they're going to call you because they're interested in going on a particular trip. So if they're going on a Caribbean cruise, you know that you can check off the marketing code for Caribbean and for cruising. Or if they call because they want to go to Disney World, you can mark that marketing code. And that might be all you know. But as you go through the sales process, you're going to learn with whom they travel, right? Because they're going to tell you who's going on the trip. It's important to keep the marketing codes up to date. Now, my database has our generic marketing codes, and these don't quite match yours. So I'm going to bring up a list of marketing codes, just again so you can see what you'll see in your database. These are the eMatrix marketing codes. These are what you'll actually be using. So if you look at them, it's all information you can gather organically. The initial conversation, the qualification, if you will, when you're learning about your clients. Of course, you're going to have a chance to have an opportunity to learn some of these options. One of the things you can do, and I think we talked about it earlier, is you can also use different methods. I think just listening to your clients and taking a moment to update the marketing codes. It doesn't have to be while you're talking to them, of course. So, you want to listen, but jot down notes or remember what you talked about. And when the client gets up from your desk or you hang up the phone, just take a few seconds and make sure your marketing codes are up to date. One thing that some agents like to do, especially if you have a storefront agency and your client's sitting at your desk, maybe when they come in and they have some, give you some ideas of what they're looking for, you spend some time looking up and researching their trip while they sit there. That might be a good time to go ahead and print out a survey. And you can do that in just a couple of clicks. Up at the top of the screen, there's a print button. When I click on the print button, you can see one of the options is Client Survey. And marketing categories. Now, I don't have any marketing categories set up to be defaulted. Your agency database administrator has the opportunity to decide what do you want to be in this list. And you'll notice each one of these represents one of the marketing categories. So for you, each item in that list is going to match one of the marketing categories here: age, trip budget, duration, and so on. And the reason we leave that up to your agency to decide is perhaps you don't want to ask your client, what type of traveler are you? You don't want to ask them, are you a VIP or a shopper? But you certainly do want to ask maybe what age group do they fall in. You certainly want to ask, do they have a travel season, or are there destinations they're particularly interested in? So you can pick and choose your categories. And again, your agency certainly can have these set up to be there by default. When, where, what type. what interests. I'll just leave a few. The survey, again, can be customized. It can be made a little bit prettier with your agency's logo up at the top. But as you can see, it shows the information that you're able to gather about your client. And of course, if this was just a lead and you don't know much more than their name, it's an opportunity to make sure that you have accurate information. But the most helpful aspect of the survey, in my opinion, is toward the end. Because as you can see, each one of those marketing codes along with, or marketing categories along with the codes that fall underneath are listed. So ask your client, explain that while you're taking a minute to look into their trip. Tell them you want to make sure that you understand what their preferences are. You want to make sure that you're sharing with them what's important to them, what's interesting to them. And I was certainly surprised when I worked in an agency how willing clients were to share that. I was always nervous about just being so flat out asking, and it turns out people are more than happy to share this information. Especially if you preface it and explain, it's all about making sure that you're only sharing relevant information with them. It's also a good time to discuss that you're not going to, inundate them with offers. You're certainly not going to share this with other companies outside of your travel agency and Ensemble and so on, whatever your policy might be. But this can be a great way, and as you can see, it's really easy, just a couple of clicks. Of course, at this point, I would go ahead and print it out for my client. And then once my clients fill that out and I've hopefully maybe even closed that sale, I can still go in and update my profile and get those marketing codes. When you welcome your client to the agency, there are also a couple of ways you can do this in a batch. I showed you how you can print a survey based on one client who's at your desk. But another time is when you're building a relationship, when that process begins. We have several tools that you can do to reach out to those clients and try to gather some information. My absolute favorite way is a relatively new feature, and by relatively new, I mean a couple of years. But we have a service called TouchBase at Trams and ClientBase. TouchBase ties in with what you're already doing, but it reaches out to your clients, not so much for marketing, but as a way to touch base. Touching base, keeping in touch with your agency is very important, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in a moment when we talk about working with existing clients. But one of the things it does, whenever you get a new client, you add a new client to your database. Within a week, they're going to receive an email from you welcoming them to the agency, letting them know, that you appreciate them taking the time to contact you. And it has a link. It has a link to an online survey that they can fill out, and they can actually update their marketing codes themselves. They go into an online form, they check off what their interests are, maybe uncheck what's changed, and that information is automatically updated in your client base. I think next to just learning about your clients, listening to your clients, the TouchBase survey is one of the most effective ways to get your marketing codes completed and accurate. If you decide not to sign up for TouchBase, you can replicate it yourself to a point, and we can do that again or with queries. We've talked about querying in the past. But if you set up a search for yourself, new profiles in the last 7 days, and again, with my training database, I don't really have a lot of new profiles. So if I change my filter a little bit and say instead of 7 days ago, I'll go 180 days ago, I'm able to go in and really quickly bring up a list of those new clients. And I can use my letters and my survey function right from here. So if you want to welcome your clients and you don't have TouchBase, you don't email, you can certainly use the other tools in ClientBase. If I click on the letter button up at the top or merge to document, and you'll look here, we have a template called Welcome to the Agency Letter. This is one of our default templates. So the template, as you see here, is already available to you. You will want to go in and customize it, and we'll be happy to help you if you join us in a Q&A. But for example, you'll want to put in your own agency's name. But just in a few clicks, I'm able to print a personalized email for each of those clients. Dear Ryan, welcome to the agency, and ask them to take a moment to complete the survey. So you can see each one of my new clients. So I could do this weekly or monthly. As soon as I click print, with having it set up, it's going to print my agency's logo and so on. So I don't even need to use letterhead. ClientBase can generate all of that for me. So I can start with my letter. And from the same screen, I can also merge to under profiles, I can print a client survey. So under reports, profile reports, you can see I have a client survey. What this does, running it from this screen as opposed to running it from the individual client, as you can see, the first steps are the same. And again, your agency can set up defaults for whatever categories you want to include. Now, instead of having just one survey, a survey from the client who's sitting at my desk, I'm able to print out surveys for each of my clients. And I simply include those with the cover letter and put them in an envelope, and I'm all set. If I'm not using a window envelope, I can also use it right from the same list. Notice I'm working from the same list the whole time. Remember, we can merge to labels to get those labels completed. So I have everything I need to do a mass mailing. So that brings me back to customers for life. That's the beginning of the life cycle, if you will. But what do I do to keep in touch? Because getting a client, once you have a client, that's the hardest thing, is to bring a new client to your agency. Frankly, it's the most expensive thing. That's where a lot of your reaching out. That's where a lot of your expensive advertising comes into play. Your yellow pages advertising. Perhaps you have a website that you're maintaining, and it's absolutely worthwhile to spend money on that in newspapers to bring people to your agency to build awareness. But once you've done that, that's really where eMatrix could come into play. The tools that I'm going to show you for touching base with your clients to keep your name. Because once that investment's paid off to bring a lead or a client to your agency, now ClientBase is going to let you do that a lot easier than chances are what you're doing right now. And that's where effectively using my database to find appropriate people to contact. We've talked about in previous sessions, in the second session, how eMatrix is doing that on your behalf. So eMatrix is already taking care of reaching out to the right client with the right message at the right time, as far as the special offers and benefits that you can give to your clients as an Ensemble member. That's awesome, isn't it? Ensemble's taking care of it for you. So you don't even really have to worry about getting the promotional pieces to them. But what you want to do, yes?
I'm going to cut you off for just a minute because we have two questions that I think it would be good to answer. One is from Anne Marie, and she's asking, is it possible to email the survey? So part of our Touch Base program does allow you to send the survey, just the survey, twice per year. In addition, if you are part of the eMatrix program, there is a way to make sure that there's a link to updating their preferences every time you send an eMatrix email out. And again, you can set that up through our daily Q&A with Wendy, or you could just email, and the email address is email@trams.com, and I will put that in the chat to get either the email sends through eMatrix set up to collect that data or to send the survey out. So sorry for the interruption.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
No, that's fine. But I do want to point out, because I know not everybody has TouchBase. So if you don't have TouchBase, it is possible to email the survey if you do it from the screen. If you do the bulk survey like I showed you a moment ago, unfortunately you can't email it. But you can do it from an email from ClientBase. If I go up to my survey, and there is an email button up at the top. It's really important to understand what that does. If you email it yourself from ClientBase, what your client's going to get is an email with that same survey attached as a PDF. So your client would in turn have to print out that PDF, fill it out, and then get it to you somehow, either mail it to you or fax it to you. So if you want to do it electronically, and who doesn't, that's the way the world works now, your best bet is to use TouchBase, because that's a full circle. Basically, that gives the tool so your client can fill out the survey online. So, so by far the best bet is TouchBase. It is technically possible to email a survey, but it's going to be a PDF survey that the client would then have to print out and fill out and then fax or mail back. So you lose some of the electronic quality there. Okay. And did you say there are 2 questions, or was that? Julie?
No, that was the 2 questions.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I combined them into one.
Gotcha. Okay. So I hope that made sense. Yes, certainly you can email it, and if you do TouchBase, again, it's automated. They're going to get that welcome automatically. You can send it up to twice a year, and even better, every marketing piece will have a link giving the client to update their marketing preferences. So now going back to, we talked about how to capture that information initially. So how do I do this, and how do I use this information to build my relationship full circle, clients for life? And this is where I can use marketing codes to find appropriate people to contact. Ensemble and eMatrix are reaching out. They're getting the appropriate offers. But travel is a personal business. It's all about relationships, and it's about keeping in touch with your clients. So let's talk about how ClientBase can make it easy for me as an agent to reach out and work with my clients. You know, one of my favorite things that you can do with ClientBase is you can easily find people who might be interested. You know, maybe you came across the special TV special on the Travel Channel on a topic. Maybe, you know, it's the new the newest cruise ship, maybe the Breakaway documentary or something like that. And you know you have clients who might want to watch that. Why not find those clients and shoot them an email and say, hey, you know, I saw this. I know this is the sort of thing that interests you. I thought you might want to check it out. Check your local listings. Or maybe you came across a news article online talking about the expansion at Disney, talking about Fantasyland. Something like that where, you know, you don't necessarily have anything to sell them. It's not a special offer on the Breakaway, and it's not necessarily information about a special you have for Disney or for Classic or whatever it might be. But you found a topic that applies to your client. You know they're interested because you've taken the time to do the marketing codes. Well, use the tools in ClientBase and reach out to them. And what's cool is you can reach out personally and still do it quickly. So how would I do that? You know, how do I find my people who might be interested in a news article about the new cruise ship, about the Breakaway or the Oasis and all of the other ships I can't keep up with? Well, that's where my marketing codes come into play. So I use my filter, and we talked about this previously, but remember, level 2 and level 3 filters or queries are the best place to narrow down or to get marketing lists. A level 2 is going to give me a more limited list than a level 3 will allow me to do. But really quickly here in a level 2 query, and you saw me when I clicked on the filter button, I did click reset. That makes sure I'm starting from a blank slate. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to say, find my leisure clients. You know, there's nothing wrong with putting marketing codes into your corporate clients. If you have corporate clients, you can market to them as well. So you could choose to do that. I'm going to leave it at leisure clients. And then we go to marketing codes. Maybe I just want my cruisers. Or maybe it's just a destination thing. You know, the top 10 destinations in Australia or something like that. I can do that. I can find those people. How cool is that? My travel agent, you know, actually thought, hey, I might be interested in this. I love that. I love when I get something from my travel agent, from my banker, from those people I work with, those professionals who I depend on to work with me. So really quickly, I got my list. Now I can click on the email button. This is the best kind of blast email from ClientBase, not so much the marketing, because again, eMatrix is taking care of that, but allowing me to go in and send an email to my short list. When you do an email, you can include just the primary email or all of the emails in your database. What's the difference? If we look at Ken here, and I look at all of his communications, you'll see I have a couple of email addresses. I have Sue's and I have Ken's email address. Even though I can have an unlimited number of email addresses, only one is marked primary at any given time. We've talked about that before. So this question, when it comes to emailing, what it's asking is, do I want each profile to only get this once? So if Ken's email address is the primary, does just Ken get it? Or do I want all valid emails to get it, in which case Ken and Sue would both get it? And then include emails with marketing permission. That's kind of important. That's very important. Remember, each email address has an option to opt out of marketing, to say they don't want to receive marketing. And even though we're not really trying to sell them anything, this really is marketing. So if they say they don't want to be on your mailing list, I would leave that checked, make sure that we're only including emails with marketing permission. And I click OK. And now what I can do is I can send a personal email. I can work from a document template or formatted text. And notice here I can say, dear, or I could even say hi if I want to be a little less formal. Salutation, first name. I don't know. And the New York Times. Right, just like you would write to a friend. Hey, I found this, I thought of you. But now instead of writing to one friend, we're writing to the dozens of friends who came up. I could put the link in. I could, again, just like any other email. Well, what ClientBase is going to do is this one's going to go to Charlie and Lucy. And this email is going to go to Mark. And this one's going to go to Dave. So really quickly, I can reach out to all of my friends on a personal basis because I know that they might be interested in that. That's the relationship. It's not just about selling to them. It's not just about the latest, greatest offer. It's about, hey, I know you. You're my client, and I really know you. I understand that this would appeal to you. I'm not trying to say anything right now, but of course, there's the underlying message. But if you do decide to book on that cruise ship that we're talking about, call me. Slow times of year is a good time to do that. Traditionally between Thanksgiving and Christmas is kind of slow. For some agencies, the summertime is kind of slow. Reach out, build your business. Or maybe it's a slow time and you want to reach out to your VIPs. How can I quickly find my VIPs to reach out and talk to them? There's I think a famous figure out there that 80% of your business comes from 20% of your clients. So how do I reach out to that 20% and make sure that I'm treating them with that level of customization, that I'm going the extra mile with them? Well, again, I can do it all with queries. I can find my top clients based on sales or even revenue. And I can do that in a level 2 or level 3 filter. Notice I'm clicking reset again just to get rid of my previous query. I say find my leisure clients. And I'm going to go on the travel history, and I can narrow it down. And I can say my top 10 clients. Again, I have a small database. I may not even have 10 clients with sales in here. You could run it for your top 200 clients or your top 300 clients. But they're the people I want to focus on. Those are the ones who are spending money, who have spent money. And if they've spent money in the past, chances are they're going to spend money again. So I want to make sure that I'm going in and I can select all of these. And I'm marking them. I can use the add marketing code. I'm using the right-click menu, the context menu, by right-clicking. And I can go in and I can add a marketing code. And remember, my codes are a little bit different, but you do have a code for your VIPs, your VIP client, your steady client, the appropriate marketing code. And you can easily and quickly make sure all of those clients, all of your top 10 or top 20 or top 200 or top 500 are marked appropriately. that you have them marked as a VIP. Once you have that list, make that list, save your list here, and make a point of reaching out to your clients regularly. One of the ways I can make sure that I'm doing that is by using my reminders to touch base. Earlier we were talking about using reminders to follow up on a lead, to keep track of when I mailed something like an offer, but create a reminder to touch base with your clients. And every time you do that, record that you touched base. You can see here I have reminders for my biannual touch base with my client. I can go in here and I can schedule them. I can do it in bulk. Once I have my query up, I can click on the remind button, create a reminder to follow up with all of them. Again, a great thing to schedule to do in the slow time. Another thing you can do is if I look at a res card, we talked about batched reminders and res cards. And batched reminders help automate the workflow. Remember, that's where I can go in and create a batched reminder. Your agency has a checklist created. And those are often where I check for documents, reminders to check for documents, welcome my client home, get the payments, and so on. But why not create a reminder for 6 months out after they return just to touch base with them? You can see here that's what I've done. We've created a reminder. My client's getting back on November 3rd. Well, we set up a reminder for a phone call for a biannual touch base in 6 months. Maybe 6 months is too far. Maybe 90 days is better. Whatever works for your agency, create a reminder as part of your batch. Because frankly, not just welcoming your client home, which I suspect a lot of you do, but following up after that is part of the trip. As soon as your client books a trip, you're ready to start, you're ready to get ready. You're ready to start building and getting to the next trip, getting them to book their next trip. So how did I create that reminder? It's a database administrator task. So frontline agents won't have to do this. It's a setup, but it only has to happen once. I went up to global defaults and my res card defaults and my batched reminders. And I went to my cruise tour batch, the one we use for everything. And I clicked on add. And I simply said always create it. Remember, it was checked. And I based it on the trip return date plus 100 plus 180 days. Like I said, maybe 6 months is too far out. Maybe 90 makes more sense for you. Well, then do that. Go ahead and put in 90 days. And then I said assign it to the current user, and it's a phone call. It's going to be a biannual touch base. And now when I'm using ClientBase to work all of my other tasks to get those deposits and final payments and welcome my client home and check for documents, I'm also going to see when I should touch base and remember to reach out to those clients and just check in. I set up to be a phone call. It could be an email. It could be whatever works for you. But it's a reason, it's a way to reach out and touch base. As I'm working my touch base, as I am doing my biannual check-in, and I'm working that, that's also a time to create a follow-up reminder. Actually, I'm going to go right to the profile again, not work for my to-do list. But as soon as I create that activity, or as I complete the activity, there's my chance to create a new one for 6 months from now. Of course, if it went really well and I have any inkling that they are indeed ready to book, instead of creating a biannual touch base reminder, I'm going to create a res card. And I'm going to use that res card to follow up with them on a much more frequent basis. If they said, hey, you know what, I'm thinking, you're right, it's great to hear from you. And, I think next year we want to go this time on a Mediterranean cruise. Create that res card as a lead. Create that lead res card. And then in that res card, create a follow-up saying, check in 2 weeks or a month or whenever they said. It's all about full circle. I can create a res card as early in the sales process as I need. Hopefully when I create a lead res card, I'm able to close it in a couple of days. But if my client said, hey, definitely we want to go on a cruise this summer, we're just not ready to talk about it, or we're not quite ready to start, go ahead and create that res card lead. Keep track of it. Keep track of, have that all right there. Remember, your res cards are your workspace. Everything is Everything about the trip, from that initial inquiry all the way through welcoming your client home, is there. Julie used the example, and I don't remember the figures, but she had a client who did have a lead for a around the world cruise. That was some huge amount of money.
$105,000.
To me, that's a huge amount of money.
It is a huge amount of money. Good sale.
Yeah. So, but Julie, how long did it take? Did it take over a year?
It was over a year.
Yeah. So.
And she spent time creating creative touch points. So we had training with the Holland America rep, and the Holland America rep had a flyer on this Around the World cruise. So she sent a note that said, the Holland America representative was just in telling us about all the wonderful aspects of the Around the World cruise. Here's the newest brochure, and sent that out. She would see articles. She would clip them and send them. Anything that she could do to keep herself in front of the customer, she did. So just little touches. But what she did is she created just a rolling reminder so that it would always pop up. Have you seen anything, and I don't remember the customer's name, have you seen anything from Mr. and Mrs. Smith's Around the World cruise? Just to remind herself.
And that's the other thing, talking about reminders, going back to our when we talked about reminders. Every reminder should be completed or rescheduled. So if this is a case where, we need to follow up, I followed up on okay, it's already June. I'm already freaking about that. Let's not pretend it's December already. But, I talked to her on today, and I had scheduled, him today, and I had scheduled this reminder. And I put in a note in here. Okay, but Ken's not ready to book. We discussed it. We piqued his interest. Maybe he said, let me talk it over with my wife. I don't have to mark it as complete. I can just go in and now say, okay, let's call him in a week, or call him in a few weeks, or whatever the appropriate time frame is. And I can reschedule that reminder just as easily. And that way it's going to keep in front of me. Sometimes it's better to reschedule it because then you have a running list of all of your notes as you talk. But the key is use ClientBase tools to find the clients you should reach out to and to actually reach out to them. Create your reminders. Mark them as VIPs. Those VIPs, I marked all of my top 10 clients. So now I can really easily go in, and just like I filtered for my people who I know enjoy cruising, so I could reach out and let them know about the TV show, or my Disney people, so I can let them know about Fantasyland. I can also go in here and be sure to include my VIP clients. Remember, my marketing codes are different from yours, so you'll have a VIP, and find it and get them. Those are the ones to reach out to. Be sure to send them a holiday card. You know what you can do? You can send them a thinking of you card mid-year. A lot of people think to send, holiday cards for Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's. But a lot of people do that. So it's great to do that, but why not send something midsummer when things are starting to slow down? Just say, hey, wanted to reach out and say hi, you're a valued client, and wanted to do that. Maybe I want to include my survey with that midsummer too, get a chance. Well, TouchBase, I can set up that email to go out midsummer. I can also do the manual way I showed you earlier by printing the survey and printing the cover letter. I'm my client's agent, right? I'm their travel advisor. I'm not just an agent. I'm not just an order taker. So I want to be proactive. I want to send birthday cards. I can do that. Notice I'm using level 2 a whole lot here. I can say find my leisure clients. And I can go into the family members, but show me my leisure clients who have a family member who have a birthday from June 1st. Notice I'm not putting in a year. I'm just saying anytime in June, because I don't care what year they were born. Although if you don't want to send it to the little kids, you might want to put in a date more than 10 or 15 years out. But now ClientBase is going to show me all of my clients with June birthdays. Now, when you're doing this, and I just want to give you an example, we will help you in a Q&A. You can look in the help file. But when you're working this way and you're running a search based on a family member, and you want to make sure that the letter or the label goes to the family member, you want to go in and click on the columns button and just make sure that the passenger name is included. In your list. I can customize what's in my list, but this way, and I'm going to put it up here by the profile name so you can see, this way I can know even though Mark Hodgson's my primary contact, he's the profile name, notice it's William who has a birthday coming up. And for example, here with Fraser Crane, it's actually Lilith whose birthday is coming up. So you definitely want to include that so you know who to call. And there's a column you can include their birthday. So if you want to make this a call list, and you can actually make a phone call to reach out. Or I can use this as an opportunity to create a letter. And at my agency, we happen to have a happy birthday letter template pre-created. But notice the template's set up to use the family or employee name. In other words, that individual. So when I print this, you can see the letters written to Lilith Crane, not to Fraser. ClientBase has that power. It can really personalize your correspondence. Again, you're reaching out to your client not to necessarily to sell them something, not to be here's the latest, greatest offer, which is important to do, which eMatrix is taking care of. But you're building that relationship. Another one, and this is really good for travel agents, passports. Passports take some time to renew, and you don't want your client to get an offer for a great European cruise that they really want to go on, only to find out their passport's expiring. So another great time, again, this is under family travel. I'm going to get rid of the birthdays now. I'm going to go in, but I'm going to say, hey, I need my people who have a passport expiring. And I don't have a lot of people with passports expiring too soon, so I'm going to put this way out. But maybe you want to do people with passports expiring, 9 months out. Remember, passports have to be good for 6 months after they travel generally. So you want to catch those people as early as possible. And here are my people who have passports expiring. And you won't believe this. I happen to have a letter for that.
Tom, I want to talk about this subject because this is really a very powerful tool. When you can query passports expiring and quickly send out a template, it's important. And I just experienced this week, I received an email from Delta because I booked my air travel through our corporate travel agency to travel to Vancouver, and my flights are booked on Delta. Well, because my email address is stored with my frequent flyer number with Delta, Delta has sent me a series of emails. One is a destination guide to Vancouver, and one of the additional emails is information on passports, and that I need a passport and that it has to be valid for 6 months. And then at the same time, Delta has a service that I could use to expedite my passport renewal or to get a passport. So I found that really, really interesting because I had booked through the corporate travel agency and the emails are coming from Delta.
And you don't want your clients to depend on Delta to keep them up to date on their travel information. You want to be the person that they think of when they need to know something about travel. You want them to think of you first, and this is how you can do it. And again, I'll just mention too, TouchBase automates all of this. With TouchBase, they're going to get a birthday email the week of their birthday. They're going to get a passport expiration reminder and time to renew their passport. They're going to get a holiday card that you choose to send them. They're going to get the survey that you choose to send them when they choose to send it. So as you can see, it's very easy to do this yourself. It's even easier to use a tool like TouchBase, especially in tandem with eMatrix, to help automate it. But even if it's automated, it doesn't hurt. I mailed a birthday card. Well, why wouldn't I still go ahead and give them a phone call, though? Especially if it's a slow season, call and have a short conversation. I've seen it in action. It can be scary to call a client out of the blue. But especially if you're calling them not with an offer, but just to say, hey, I noticed it's your birthday, happy birthday. Or for your VIPs, hey, you know what? I was just thinking about you. Just wanted to check in. How are things going? That I mean, I don't know about you. I fall for it. I think that's great. When my State Farm agent calls me, that's why I pay a little bit more for State Farm than I could with other companies, because I like that my agent makes that effort to reach out to me. And you can do that. And as you can see, you can do that so easily right here in ClientBase. So I hope that I was able to inspire you and give you some ideas and really show you how easy it is to build that full circle, to stay in touch with your clients even after that initial inquiry. I hope it makes sense why it's so important to get the marketing codes. Capture them as early as you can and make sure they stay accurate. Because if your marketing codes are accurate and you have your clients' birth dates and passport information all on file, you can continue that and continue to be your client's go-to person for everything travel. You can be proactive to make sure that they remember you. Julie, have we had any questions come through? Because that's...
We've had some questions come through, but it's more connecting the email addresses to family members. So could you talk
very important.
A little bit about attaching those family member email addresses in the profile?
That's very important, especially when we start talking about sending birthday cards, birthday emails, passport reminders, because those things are things that are family member specific, right? So there are a couple things to keep in mind. When I go into ClientBase and I add an email address on this first screen, this email address isn't attached to any individual person. It's assumed to belong to the whole family. Okay, just like if I enter a phone number here, ClientBase is going to assume that the first phone number I enter, anything I enter actually outside of the Family Members tab is shared. So there are two ways to make sure that communication entries, like the email address, are attached to the individual. Therefore, when it's time to email them a happy birthday or a passport expiration, that it goes to the appropriate person. When I'm looking at any communication entry here, I can always click on the button next to it. And notice there's a drop-down, and each family member is listed here. So in this case, Ken has actually been linked to Ken. Normally it would be blank. This email address, ClientBase knows it's for the Ken's family, but it doesn't know that it's Ken's email. If I click on that and click the drop-down, I can assign it to Ken. The other thing is, as I'm entering information, if I enter it on the family member directly, ClientBase is going to link it, and you'll see here that it is linked. It shows up here just for this family member. So there's Ken. It's attached to Ken. And actually, that didn't refresh because I didn't close out the profile. So if I had closed out the profile and it wasn't attached to Ken, you wouldn't see it there because ClientBase doesn't know that that's the specific family member. But if I go in and either type it in here or at least go in and edit the email address and choose from the drop-down. Basically, when I enter anything in the family member page, ClientBase has automatically used that drop-down and assigned it to that individual. And I can do that with phone numbers and Facebook IDs. Remember, we can track social media. There's not a lot that we automate with it right now, but it's worth capturing because in future releases, we're going to have tools to help you not just reach out to your clients via email, but to integrate social media, which is becoming very popular, as you probably know. Okay. Anything else, Julie?
No, those are all the questions so far.
Okay. So again, I hope that I was able to inspire. I hope I was able to share with you today some things that you're going to be able to take back and immediately use. In the past, we were focusing a lot on the initial information gathering, but I hope you're able to see today why you want to capture that information and get it into ClientBase. If you enter it right in the reservation system, you have a reservation, but you don't have a relationship. But if you enter it in ClientBase, You have it for the reservation, and using Live Connect, it's actually typed into the reservation for you. But you also have the relationship, and you have reasons and excuses to reach out to your client and continue to stay in front of them, to keep in front of them, to touch base. Okay. Any other questions come through, or Julie, is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, we don't have any questions that have come through. And I just want to add, I think you're doing an amazing job. So big claps and big applauses, because these are really core skills that are hard for an agency to master. And I think that you've done a really good job outlining step by step what needs to be done. And I hope that my Delta story really kind of rings through to, you know, the agencies out there, that the vendors are contacting the customers directly. And this may be, in Delta's case, to obviously sell me ancillary services, because there are bag fees and seat fees that I need to pay coming up, and also just to touch base with me and thank me for being their customer, which is important that an agency be very proactive and do that themselves as well.
Yes. So, you know what? This is our 5 for which we've strived. Thank you, guys. I know most of you have joined us for all 5 sessions or have watched the previous videos. I just want to thank you all for taking the time to join me and to join Julie for the 5 sessions. I hope as we've gone through, I was able to share new ways to use ClientBase, and just know that we're here to help you. We have our Q&A every day. We have our support desk who are able to help you if you have any technical questions with ClientBase. Use us to help you get the most out of ClientBase. And Marie, I think you're here on the call still. And if you
She may have had to have dropped off. I know she was going to start the call, but I don't think she was going to end the call.
Hi, are you here?
Oh, there you are. Hi.
Yes,
Here,
I'm
you're Marie.
here. I just wanted to say huge thank you, a tremendous educational series, and what's so great is we have it for everybody that missed it on our extranet, and just thank you for all of you for tuning in, and we'll look forward to the great results that this will produce, because no doubt it will. So thanks to everybody, and I'll hand it back to you, Julie, in case you had something you wanted to end off on.
I do have a couple points. Remember at the beginning of the class when I asked you to just reflect on what separates the extraordinary travel professional from an ordinary one, and why some travel professionals are always drawn to their client's inner circle while others are employed on a one-shot basis. So I hope you've had an opportunity to think about those 2 questions while Tom has really drilled in on some core skills that is going to bring you into the client's inner circle. But the other point that I wanted to make is developing lasting business relationships with your customers is an ongoing, it's a circle, and it's ongoing. So basically, if you feed your customer information into your database and you continue to collect and enhance that information, and you're part of the eMatrix program, or you're part of the TouchBase, or if you're just developing queries to quickly get these emails out yourself, you are going to develop a targeted marketing program that's going to drive business into your agency. And if you develop this, what I'm going to call a sustain and grow process at your agency, it will deliver measurable results for years to come. Because like Tom said, your database is not a stagnant. It is an ongoing feeding customer information into the database. So with those points, I just want to thank everyone for their time and their efforts into incorporate these strategies into their agency. And like Marie said, we really appreciate your feedback. So please email Ensemble, email me directly, And also, I look forward to seeing everyone at conference in October. And hopefully you can personally come and tell me the successes that you've had with the Strive for 5 and the return on your marketing dollar that you're seeing with incorporating these core strategies into your agency. So with that said, I'm going to thank everyone for attending the Strive for 5 sessions, and we hope to see you at conference in fall. Thanks, Marie. Thanks, Ensemble. And thank you, Tom.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.